Welcome online, ladies and gentlemen. We're just setting up our live streaming. Here we go. We're live. Fantastic. So we're live streaming here in the Zoom room, but also on Facebook and YouTube at the very same time. With that in mind, I'm going to put on a quick timer. That's your opportunity to have a check as a person you're invited to hear live. Type in where you're from, and then we'll be starting in 30 seconds. Oops, and the timer went back. Let's do it again. Alrighty, welcome online, ladies and gentlemen. We've had people type in the chat where they're joining us from here in the Zoom room. We've got Ontario, Canada, Charleston, USA. Sounds like that dance, the Charleston. New Zealand's excited to be here. We have BC, Canada, Florida, Western Australia, Las Vegas. We've got people logging in from everywhere. We're also live streaming right now onto social media as well. So you may be watching us on YouTube or maybe watching us on Facebook. Here in the Zoom room, we do have closed captions live right now. So if you we also have Wordly, I just remembered. And let me show you what that is. If you speak a different language during this event live, in the chat, I have just posted a link. And that link will translate if you click it with your phone or you want to click it. Otherwise, it will actually repeat everything that Steve is going to say today in your local language. So it's a really cool thing that we do because Neumi is in 74 countries across the world with about a dozen different languages. And so it gives us international scope. So as I introduce our presenter today, this is my beautiful friend, Steve Scott. I've known Steve now I just realized, Steve, it's nearly 20 years. I always say that 18. It was about 20 years where I met Steve when I discovered a company that he was the founder of with a glutathione precursor. And that was a very early iteration of technology in this industry. What you're about to hear about today just puts that in the dust. It's now like a beta cassette, old style, and we have an MP3. But Steve, if you don't know Steve's background, our founder, Steve was one of the most respected people in direct response television. If you've ever seen any form of Hollywood star, Chuck Norris, people like that selling the Total Gym, those infomercials, they were Steve. And so he's well known worldwide for that. And I met him when he was in the research space of the glutathione nutrition breakthrough. And of course, then Steve went into retirement, can't keep a good man down, discovered the biggest breakthrough of his entire life. And that's why we're here to talk today about Neumi and HydraStat. So with that, I'm going to introduce you to our founder, Steve Scott. It's your rare opportunity to be up close and personal and get to know the founder. So over to you, Steve.
Well, thank you. And boy, it's been a long day. I was on a Zoom yesterday with a bunch of African Neumi family members, a lot. And what time did that start? That started at midnight my time and went till a few minutes before 2 a.m. And then we had a morning call, and then we had a Zoom today again, and there's my dog whining. She's been good all day. What do you want? Okay. I'm ADD. Nana, come here. Come here. Here, you get down here and play with that. She's a 90-pound puppy, 95-pound, and she thinks she's only about 6 pounds, but she's a big, strong dog. She's a water dog, a Newfoundland. And I love dogs. I've always had dogs from the time I was born. In fact, the dog entered the family just a couple months before I did in 1948. And that dog I grew up with was with me for 14 years and palled around with me. So I love animals. I love dogs. I'm not real excited about cats. No offense. We have dog people. We have cat people. We have both dog and cat people on the call today. So we are an equal opportunity glutathione group. My background, for those of you that don't know me, I was in television for 35 years. Okay, she's going to go outside. Excuse me, Michael or Phoebe, one of you two, entertain the troops, and I will be back. I pushed my chair way in, so it's hard to get out. Okay.
What I want to say to you guys is that when you get to meet our beautiful founder, Steve Scott, as I said, I've known for about 20 years, we don't have, staged scripting and wording like that. No, you're meeting the real Steve Scott up close and personal. And yes, he is a little ADD. And once the dog's out of the way, we'll have his undivided attention. So I can hear he's walking back to his computer now. And assuming the dog has found its place, we will be on. Here we go. Back to you.
Coming in. Okay. Now let's just hope she doesn't start barking. So anyway, I had a lot of failure in my life, and I apologize for those of you that have heard this story so many times. I graduated from college in 1970. Some of you weren't even born then. And first 6 years were not real good years. I flunked out of 9 jobs as a college graduate in business, in marketing. And no matter what I did, I couldn't succeed. A dear friend of mine who became my best friend and was the wisest man I know, he was visiting the house. And I just lost my 5th job. And I said, Gary, I don't understand. I can't succeed. And yet I'm not stupid. I have a good IQ. I'm not lazy. I'm first in, last out at every job that I take, even when I'm with a big company with thousands of employees. And I said, and I understand my craft, which is marketing, but I just can't succeed. Gary said one of the wisest things, and all of you should remember this. He didn't say, okay, let me tell you what you're doing wrong. He said, let me pray about it. Isn't that interesting? Next morning, he comes into my room and he says, I've got the answer. Well, I have attention deficit disorder. I'm the highest ever measured by the University of Utah. So I said, you've got the answer to what? You know, how to succeed, why you haven't succeeded and how you can succeed. I said, really? He said, yeah. He said, how would you like to be wiser than all your bosses? I was 26 years old. I'm 77 now. That tells you how long ago it was. I said, yeah, right. He said, no, you can do one thing, do it for 2 years. In 2 years, you'll be wiser than all your bosses. And in 5 years, gee, an eagle just flew by. And in 5 years, you see, I'm ADD. You don't see, there he goes. Woo, look at that thing go. Okay. He says, in 5 years, you'll probably be a multimillionaire. Or no, just a millionaire. And I said, oh, come on, Gary. The only reason we ate that day is 2 women from a Bible study I taught left groceries anonymously on the doorstep. It's the only reason we had breakfast. And he says I could do something for 5 years or for 2 years, and in 5 years, I'd probably be a millionaire. Well, he was wrong. I was a multimillionaire within 2.5 years. So what he told me really worked. And someday we'll do a Neumi meeting where I do nothing but share some of those. But what he said was there's 31 chapters in the book of Proverbs in the Bible. There's 31 days in the month. Every day read the chapter of the day. So like today's the 19th. So I'd read Proverbs chapter 19 with pencil and paper in hand, write down the wisdom and insights you get and begin to apply those to your job, to your career, to your work. He said, do that for 2 years. It'll take you through the book of Proverbs 24 times. And I promise you, it'll change everything. So I started doing it. In the next year and a half, I went through job number 6, 7, and 8. But on job number 9, I'd been through Proverbs about 18 times. I was in a huge company, a catalog company, and I was a little tiny nothing in the company. And yet, using the strategies I found, I was able to double their sales from 30 million a year to 60 million a year. And I created that project that did that in less than 3 months. And so with that, a man said, you and I ought to be in business. If you find a product you and I could sell on TV, you can quit your job and we can start our own television marketing company. Well, a singer that some of you are old enough to remember named Pat Boone called me a couple weeks later, and he had a product. And it was a breakthrough. What's a breakthrough? A breakthrough is a product that can do something that nothing else in the world can do as effectively, efficiently, and sometimes as economically. Well, Pat had a breakthrough product. So he sent it to me. I sent it to the man who offered to go into business with me. We spread some product around. People loved it. So I quit my job in Arizona. That's like quitting your job on the Gold Coast, Michael. And I moved to Philadelphia, which would be like moving for you to move to Perth. And he had $5,000, and we started this little TV marketing company. And 5 months later, we were doing $1 million in sales a week. And that's when $1 million was a lot of money. A house was only about $30,000. Cars were 10 to 15 houses. I was in a house that cost me $29,000. And yet we were doing $1 million. And then a few months later, a couple million a week. And then a few months later, $3 million a week, add it all up. And it's hundreds of millions of dollars a year. Now that was because we found a breakthrough product. In 2006, I met a doctor from Florida, but he was an instructor with the Mayo organization, the Mayo Clinic, and he introduced me to a word. In fact, it was a molecule. It's called glutathione, and it turns out it's right there with oxygen and water. It's one of the most important molecules in life. Without glutathione, there is no life on Earth. No fish, no birds, no people, no insects. All of life disappears without glutathione. That's how critical it is. It performs 400 different, just seemingly unrelated functions in the human body. So if you were an athlete, that would be like you being able to go onto a baseball team and play every position, all 9 positions, outfield, infield, pitching, catching. You could do anything. You'd be the most amazing baseball player in history. But that's only 9. We'd have to go to football team. Now they have 11 offense, 11 defense, and 11 special teams. And you can do all of those. So now we're up to roughly, let's see, that's 33 plus 9. We're up to 40 some functions. Well, we'll say you're a track athlete and you do the decathlon. That's 10 more events. Now you, the most amazing athlete in the world, you're all the way up to 51 different, totally different events. And you are number 1 in the world at all of them. You're still 350 short of what glutathione does. And today we'll cover just a few of those functions so you can get an idea of how amazing this molecule is. Only God could create something like this. For the atheists on the phone, I apologize, but I don't apologize because I'll tell you, there's no human being that has ever, do you know mankind's never created a living cell? With all of our AI and computers and everything, you can give them all the parts of a cell and we still can't bring it to life, even though those aren't dead tissues and dead parts. And that's a simple cell. And your cell isn't simple. In fact, Michael, let's show them, just for fun, a cross-section of a cell. Now, he'll bring that up in a minute. And glutathione is manufactured by every cell in your body. Now, that's just a cross-section. What they did is they took an electronic microscope. They looked at it, but that microscope can't really reproduce the image. It sends electronic signals that are then transferred. That is oversimplified, probably by 1 billion times. That's how complex your cell is. Do you know every cell makes 50,000 DNA repairs a day? Every cell in your body is repairing your DNA when there's little breaks in it 50,000 times a day per cell, and you have 37.5 trillion cells. You think that happens by accident? Not even close. I mean, it's funny. There's a Bible verse that says, the fool has said in his heart, there is no God. I was an atheist. I was a fool until another scientist when I was 16 years old, laid out things, and it was amazing. Okay, so that lecture is free. I can tell you so much about the living cell. The most complex machine ever built by mankind was the Saturn V rocket with its lunar lander and lunar orbiter. It took 35,000 engineers 8 years, most of the time working overtime, to design and create that Saturn V system. Do you know every single cell in your body is millions of times more complex than the Saturn V? More inner working systems, communicating. I mean, it gets crazy. Okay, why are we doing that? Because our breakthrough operates at the cellular level, not just on a few cells. It operates on every single cell that's alive in your body. It's manufactured. I mean, that's just one thing the cell does. It has a manufacturing plant for glutathione. Glutathione is 3 peptides: glycine, glutamic acid, and cysteine. And they are pieced together and sewn together through a 100 sequential step process, electrochemical process. Now, if one of those steps were done out of sequence, the cell would be dead. If it repeated in every cell, then you'd be dead. In fact, there'd be no life on Earth. So it's very complex. That's the good news. Glutathione, like I said, performs 400 functions that are critical. These functions will decide how you live tomorrow, how you go through your day. They'll decide how well you sleep tonight. Will you wake up discouraged and, another day? I don't want to get out of bed. I don't want to go to work. That's all a function of glutathione, believe it or not. We have proof now. I mean, we have so much proof, it's crazy. Glutathione is the most studied molecule in all of science, okay? Medical science. Right now, there are over 200,000 published studies in the US government library of medical science and medical literature called PubMed. Now, if we took all the studies on vitamin C, all the studies on vitamin E, all the studies on CoQ10, all the studies on superoxide dismutase and catalase, they still wouldn't equal the number of studies on glutathione. And yet I lecture doctors all over the world, and I can tell you, most doctors haven't heard of glutathione. And yet it's the most studied. Why is that? Because science works up here. And then it filters down, ultimately, believe it or not, to pharmaceutical companies. And they decide what to do with it. And when they put $1 billion and quite a few years into it, then they go out and tell the doctors what they have. So doctors are way behind medical science. And I tell you that because my own doctor that's responsible for my health, she had never heard of glutathione, and she's a brilliant doctor. Otherwise, I wouldn't be going to her. And my wife goes to her. Okay, so what does this little molecule do? Well, let's start with something pretty vital, and that is the oxygen transfer. When your body manufactures those beautiful red blood cells, hemoglobin, hemoglobin has iron in it. And some of those iron molecules have the correct charge. They're charged at a +2. Some of them have a charge of +3. That +3 charge prevents hemoglobin from binding with oxygen. So it's unbound, kind of like bringing the poles of magnets together. Bring 2 north poles together, and what happens? We learned that in grade school. And you can't do it no matter how hard you try. That's hemoglobin and oxygen. Until the +3 iron molecules are reduced. Thank you. I'm struggling a little tonight. It's been a long day. Are reduced to a +2. When that reduction takes place, boop, the hemoglobin binds to the oxygen and delivers life-giving oxygen to every cell in your body, 37 trillion. And guess how long it takes to do it? This is what gets crazy. Zoop, one pass of circulation, which is 50 to 60 seconds. Is that amazing? And so, without glutathione is the sole reduction agent for the iron in hemoglobin. So without glutathione, there's no breathing. You breathe in, fill those lungs with oxygen, they never go anywhere else. And within a matter of minutes, your brain would start to die, your heart would die, you would die. Okay, that's one of 400 functions. Pretty vital. Another one, we learned in the pandemic how important our immune system was. Okay, people with robust, responsive immune systems didn't die. They may have gotten sick, but they didn't die. People with weaker and suppressed immune systems, they died by the millions. Okay, so that was the immune system. How does the immune system work? Whenever there's a bacterial or viral insult to your body, these little invaders come in your body. They can come in through touch. They can come in through the air, through what you taste, eat, drink, whatever. But they come in, and when they come in, your immune system instantly goes to work. And they say, we've got an invader here, and we've got to kill it. So they produce these assassins, mainly T cells, but also B cells and C cells and A cells, but mainly the T cells. They are about 95% of the assassins in your body that target bacteria and viruses. Now, the problem is, I'm sorry for my hoarseness. This comes from hours of talking today, many hours. And when I do this, I don't talk at a conversation level. You know, I tend to project. So the bacterial virus, when it gets in, it starts to reproduce. And it reproduces first and very rapidly. So it goes from this much of your body to like that. And your T cells, to counter that, they have to reproduce. And if they reproduce slowly, the bacterial virus wins. You get sick, you take longer to recover. And if they really reproduce too slow, then either the bacterial virus dies because of its half-life, or it takes you all the way to death's door and you die. But how fast the T cells reproduce is entirely dependent on glutathione. If you have low levels of glutathione, they reproduce slowly, while the bacteria or virus is reproducing rapidly. If you have high levels, guess what? They reproduce rapidly. They ultimately catch up. They kill the virus. They kill the bacteria, and you get better quicker. So glutathione is the sole protector of your immune cells, your T cells. Okay, what else? Let's take a third one. Well, how about detoxification? Everybody on this call has at least, minimally, 200 industrial chemicals that don't belong in your body. They can break your mitochondria. In fact, they are primarily the primary cause of the breakage of your mitochondrial DNA. As long as your mitochondrial DNA is intact, the cell can't mutate. But when it's broken, the cell can mutate, reproduce, and we call that cancer. Okay, so you've got all these chemicals in you, and they tend to be the ones that break the mitochondrial DNA. Glutathione is the primary, main detoxifier of the cell. It has this sticky sulfhydryl molecule that sticks to the chemical and neutralizes it or gets it out of the cell. Amazing, amazing. It's like fly paper, or now they have spider traps like that. They even have mouse traps that are sticky. And well, that's the sulfhydryl molecule in the cysteine portion of the glutathione. Okay, so detoxification, critical to longevity, critical to life, critical to how you feel, how you get through your day. What else? Well, glutathione's most notorious role, most famous role, is that of an antioxidant. Now, every cell in your body, Michael, we can show them what 20,000 looks like. Every cell in your body is attacked by 20,000 free radicals a day. And those are the free radicals inside the cell. The cell is also bombarded out from outside forces by even hundreds of thousands of more free radicals. Now that's 20,000. So imagine if you're in center court and the announcer says, okay, folks, that person that's in the center court, everybody that can just land a blow gets $1 million tonight. Man, the stands would empty and it's you against 20,000 people. That's what your cells go through every single day of your life. In 5 days, they encounter over 100,000. Let's show them that one for fun. So there's 100,000. Imagine all those people against you. That's what your cells go through in just 5 days. Okay, back to me, please. So what is a free radical? Why are they so damaging? They are scavengers. They steal an electron from the cell. And when that takes place, it creates a terrible outcome called oxidative stress. Oxidative stress does 3 more terrible things. Number one, it puts inflammation in the cell. So now you've got this yucky inflammation, and it's interfering with the normal, proper function of all these different activities that are going on to the cell to keep it alive and keep it doing its job. Crazy, huh? And so the inflammation, what else? It accelerates the aging of the cell. Do you want your brain cells, your skin cells, your heart cells to get older faster? Or do you want them to stay younger longer? Well, oxidative stress causes accelerated aging. It accelerates the accelerated aging, is a better way to put it. Okay, so not good. What else is oxidative stress? You're not going to believe this one. Oxidative stress creates more free radicals. So it's a self-feeding circle. So these free radicals, man, they are out to kill your cells, break the mitochondrial DNA. Well, there's a whole spectrum of free radicals. Some are sourced from the hydrogen in your body. Some are sourced from the oxygen in your body, and some are sourced from the nitrogen. And all antioxidants, what do antioxidants do? They donate one of their electrons to the free radical. And when that donation takes place, it sequesters and neutralizes that free radical. That's why we take antioxidants. Well, all antioxidants except glutathione are monofocused. So vitamin C can neutralize this type of free radical, but it leaves all of these bad boys. Okay, vitamin C, vitamin E, vitamin D, vitamin A, CoQ10, superoxide dismutase, catalase. They're all monofocused. Each one can do one type of free radical. Glutathione is called the master antioxidants for 2 reasons. Number one, it's by far the most abundant antioxidant in your body. Millions of times more glutathione molecules than any other antioxidant molecule in your body. But the other reason is it isn't monofocused. It can sequester and neutralize all types of free radicals, regardless of their structure, their chemical composition, and their source. We deal with free radicals today that our parents didn't have to deal with. For example, those nice 5G towers. Hello, there's one right now coming into this phone, microwaves from that 5G tower, and they come into my body, and guess what they produce? They react with the nitrogen in your body, and that creates a free radical called peroxynitrite. Peroxynitrite lasts 1 billion times longer than any oxygen-based free radical, and it attacks the DNA. So now the DNA doesn't have to just worry about chemicals. It's getting attacked by this terrible free radical and a few others. And if it breaks, then the cell is at risk for mutating and multiplying and becoming cancerous. Okay, so glutathione is the detoxifier of the cell. It is the master antioxidant. It is the sole protector of the immune system. It will determine how I perform when I wake up. Now, I've been up for a lot of hours today, and I didn't get much sleep last night. By the way, what's one of the primary ingredients for good sleep? I'll give you two. One, of course, is melatonin. The other is serotonin. They both really are important. Glutathione doesn't manufacture either one of them, but it protects the factory that manufactures melatonin. It protects the factory that manufactures serotonin. And on one of these doctors I was on with yesterday, they said, we know you know that glutathione is critical for melatonin. Do you tell people to take it before bedtime? Because we're finding it so effective in helping people sleep better. I didn't know that. Remember, there's 200,000 studies. I confess I haven't read them. And but I studied it right after we hung up. That's the first thing I did. I went to ChatGPT, and oh my gosh, the melatonin factory in your cells is very sensitive to oxidative stress. Glutathione reduces that oxidative stress and thereby is a protector of the production of melatonin and serotonin. So who knew? Okay, we find out more every day. I'm 77 and I still have a million things that I haven't learned yet. Okay, problem is our glutathione levels are declining by 8 to 15% per decade, starting at the age of 20. Now, everybody on this call is over 20. So if you're 40 years old, what is that? 30, 40, you are at least 20 to 30% less glutathione than you were at 20. At 70, I'm at least 65% less glutathione. But the desperate need for my dog to stop barking so I can think about this, the desperate need for glutathione never goes down, okay? In fact, the need increases as you age in industrial societies. Glutathione decreases, the need for glutathione increases. Look at that deficit. That deficit is what allows oxidative stress and inflammation to produce the onset and progression of 78 different disease classes. Michael, would you show them that? We've got a study that we're putting up in the chat that you can link to. And it came out in 2009. Brilliant study. It's one of my favorites. Look at that. Glutathione dysregulation. That means the decline in glutathione, and the etiology, which is the onset and progression of human diseases. And in this study, they proved they have over 600 references to other studies, but the publisher didn't have enough room, so they cut it down to 300. And it shows glutathione's role in cancer, the onset of cancer, diabetes, pulmonary diseases, fibrosis, COPD, heart disease. I mean, it goes on and on. Type 1 diabetes, type 2 diabetes. It's crazy how glutathione, and that article proves it. And now it's in your chat, so you can reference it and get it. It's amazing. A doctor gave it to me clear back in about 2011, and it blew me away. Okay, so glutathione levels go down, need goes up. How I go through my day. Do I get sick? If I get sick, how fast do I recover? If I work out, how fast do I recover? If I get injured, how fast is it's all resting on glutathione. So you have higher glutathione levels, you recover from athletic expenditure faster, much faster. About our athletes that we've watched and that have been measured by a clinic in Spain, they recover about 70% faster if they're on the product from their workouts, from their events. It delays, they found, this is out of this group that's, the head of that group is on our medical board, and it delays the onset of lactic acidosis, which is what makes you sore, by 16%, 16.7%. So it gives a runner 2 additional kilometers before their body even starts making lactic acid. I said, is that good? He said, is it good? He said, it's the biggest game changer I've ever seen. We've never seen anything move the needle even 1%, and you're moving at 16%. He said, it's crazy. No wonder that athletes recover so fast. We have also found injuries, illnesses, recovery is amazing, more rapid by raising our glutathione levels. Now, knowing what I've just told you, you probably want to go to the nearest health food store or go online at Amazon and buy the best, most expensive glutathione capsules you can get. Problem with that is they don't work that well. Now, I'm going to show you why they don't work. The one strand of hair, now this is probably 30, 50 strands of hair, is 80,000 nanometers thick. A piece of typing paper is 100,000 nanometers thick. Your average cell is only 100 nanometers, 100. And the pore in the cell, entrance to the cell, is only 10 nanometers. Well, because glutathione is fragile and can't get through the stomach, remember it breaks, brilliant companies have said, let's wrap it in a layer of fat, in liposomes. Now, the problem is that molecule is only 1 nanometer when it's naked, but when you wrap it in fat, the size goes from 55 to 300 nanometers. It's too big to get into the pore. So it has to lay on top, and it depends on what's called forced diffusion. Outside pressures pushing it into the cellular membrane, trying to get it in there. Some of it gets into the membrane, and some that get in the membrane actually may make it into the cytoplasm. The cytoplasm is where you want to be. That's forced diffusion, not real efficient, kind of like trying to ride a bicycle uphill in high gear. And you pedal real fast, but you go real slow and you may not make it to the top. Now, what would happen if we avoided the stomach altogether and we wrap that not in a layer of fat, but in reorganized, ultra pure water envelopes? Well, it wouldn't protect it through the stomach, but we wouldn't care because the particle size would be small enough that it absorbs right into our bloodstream through our mucous membranes inside our cheeks. I can't open my mouth wide. That's it. And in the venous cavity under our tongue. And so we get into the bloodstream by swishing, like a mouthwash. And as we swish, glutathione is transferring into your bloodstream. From the time it gets into the bloodstream till the time it exits is only 50 to 60 seconds, one pass of circulation. Your body's moving 12 liters of blood throughout your entire system in 50 to 60 seconds. Is that amazing? That's a real pump. Oh my goodness. So we do that in water molecules, and guess what happens? We now have proof. We now have live cell testing proof by the #1 living cell testing company in the world. It's called Eurofin. They're in 63 countries, 60,000 employees. They do 450 million tests a year. They tested us. And guess what? Within 5 minutes, boom, right into the cell, forced through passive diffusion. They were so blown away by our HydraStat technology that does that. Their scientists called us and said, hey, there are drugs that can't get into the cell. They have to rely on carriers, and those carriers can create side effects. What would happen if your system would actually deliver drugs into the cell without a carrier? It would be the talk of the world. Are you okay if we do a test like that? We said, how do we do that? We'll send you some drugs that can't get in the cell, put them into your HydraStat, send it back to us, and we'll tell you what happens. Well, we always love science, so I'm not going to tell you, but that test will take place. It may show that we don't get drugs in the cell. Maybe we do, but we do get glutathione in the cell. And guess what we did? The cells that had adequate amounts of glutathione, they were maxed out. Our water carrier goes right over them, and we don't force the cell in, glutathione in. The cells that have a deficit, which is most of your cell, all of your cells at my age, just about, but they actually depleted those cells by 35%. If they go much lower, it kills the cell. And those cells sucked it right up within 5 minutes. Now, in reality, it was probably a lot faster, but 5 minutes is as fast as they can test. Okay, we're 6:42, so we're going to wrap this up in the next 4 minutes. When we created this technology, I knew if it really worked, it would make a huge change in athletic performance. I gave it to one athlete on Memorial Day, May. You guys don't know when that is. It's the first Monday of May in the year, first or second. It was the second Monday, and I gave it to an athlete, and he does a 2-hour workout. I'm sure all of you do this. You may want to duplicate this. He runs on a treadmill at a 25-degree incline for an hour. Then, because his legs are so inflamed and knees are hurting so bad, he then jumps off the treadmill and does an hour of rowing, intensive rowing. My body never has to worry that I will put it through that kind of torture, even any torture like that. So anyway, we gave it to him. He called me that night that he worked out. Steve, this is amazing. I said, what happened? He said, for the first time in 10 years, my knees never got sore. They didn't swell up. And I jumped onto the rower, finished that. And instead of feeling like I gotta fall into bed right now because I'm wiped out, I felt so good I could have done another set. It was crazy. And the next morning says, it's even bigger than I thought. For 10 years, I wake up sore and stiff. I have to do yoga. I have to do stretching. I have to use a roller on my legs. None of that happened. This is unbelievable. So then I sent it to a pro athlete. The guy's name is Bill Gillespie, Michael, and he's been a weightlifter since he was 14 years old. He was the strength and conditioning coach for the Seattle Seahawks. That's the team that just won the Super Bowl this year. He was their strength and conditioning coach years ago. And as a weightlifter, he specializes in the bench press. So you can see all the weight on that bar. That particular bar right now has over 1,000 pounds on it in that middle picture. Well, let's go to his chart. When he was 49 years old in 2008, he set a world record as an amateur. He was drug tested of 804 pounds. I think that's around 300 and some odd kilos. And I called him 10 years later. I knew him back then, but I called him in 2018 when we developed this process. How you doing, Bill? Not good. He says, less lean muscle, lots of inflammation. I used to lift heavy 4 times a week. Now I can only lift heavy once a week, and my bench press is in the toilet. I said, well, what's in the toilet? He says, I can barely do 700 pounds. I said, Ben, Bill, for a 59-year-old, 700 pounds is a lot of weight. He says, yeah, it's a world record for a 59-year-old, but I don't get to compete with the elite guys anymore. So I said, well, our product's going to change all that. So we put him on the product. Long story short, here's what happened. Before the end of the year, that was in June he started. Before December, he had benched 915 pounds, a new world record. In the next year, as a 60-year-old, 2019, he benched 1,050 pounds, a new world record. And then as a 62-year-old in 2022, at his retirement meet, the last meet of his career, he successfully benched 1,129.8 pounds. That's 512 kilos. That's the weight of a concert grand piano with the bench on top of it. And he benched it. And so obviously he was a happy guy. Plus he didn't hurt. His inflammation reduced and he didn't hurt anymore. He could, and his lean muscle increased, and he went back to lifting heavy 4 times a week. Not bad. Okay, so why do I tell you that? None of us are athletes like that. We have a lot of athletes. We have a lot of world-class athletes. We have world record holders that are setting new records, men and women, on our product. No, we're not athletes, but we have to perform every day. We have to get up. We have to go to work. We perform with a great attitude. We perform with a lousy attitude. We perform with a lot of energy. We perform with a little energy, mental energy, physical stamina, mental stamina. It's all related to glutathione. Now, one of our athletes was in a 100-mile bike race in 2018, and she was breaking all of her records. And at the 37 or 38-mile mark, she hit another bike. Another bike hit her, got airborne, hit the pavement so hard that it knocked her out, broke her helmet, knocked her out, and her face was shredded, basically. That she was hospitalized that Saturday, Sunday, Monday, came home Tuesday night. The plastic surgeon in the hospital said that's going to take 5 weeks to clear. And then you're going to have to wait 60 days, then come in and we'll work out how to deal with the scars. Well, she gets home Tuesday night and she thinks, hey, this stuff is small particle. Maybe if I put some on a cotton ball and put it on all the affected areas, it'll help my face to clear faster. And road rash, scabs, you name it, abrasions, stitches. Well, she did it that night, Tuesday night, then she did it 3 times on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. By Sunday, her face was completely clear. Not a mark, not a scab, not a road rash, not an abrasion, nothing. Completely clear. I saw that, and I've owned 5 cosmetic companies in my life, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is the best skincare product the world has ever seen. So we put some in spray bottles. We're getting close to the end of the presentation, and we sent it out to a few women, and I said, spray your face 5 times a day for 8 weeks, and then send me the pictures. First picture to come back was this one. Sherry Warner was 59 years old. That was in only 7 weeks. And I thought, we do definitely have the best skincare. I sent that picture to my former formulator, who became the senior vice president of research and head formulator for the company that created Botox. And when he saw this, he said, Steve, I hate to tell you, she's had a facelift. I said, John, no, she hasn't. She lives on a farm, works on a farm, no scalpel, no laser, no procedure has ever touched her face. He said, then you have something the rest of the world doesn't have. I said, I know. And he said, tell me. Well, he's a dear friend, and I knew I could take him in confidence. So I told him how we did it, and it blew his mind. Well, let me tell you why we do this. We show you the before and afters we're going to show you now, not just because we have the world's best skincare in a spray, but because the same biochemical activity that is making the skin look and act younger, brighter, tighter, smoother, takes place in every cell in your body. That's what glutathione does. The biochemical activity doesn't change from cell to cell. It's doing the same oxidative stress reduction, and we have proof of that now as well. But the genes that are attributable to inflammation and oxidative stress, when they're overexpressing, we have a geneticist on our medical board, brilliant scientist in Athens, Greece, and he's now measured. And he said, Steve, this is doing what no other product in the world does. I said, I know. He said, this is so much bigger than you can imagine. I said, I got a good imagination. He said, no, it is so much bigger. I think he's right. And of course, he's just a kid. He's only 63. But, kids sometimes are pretty smart. And so anyway, let's show him a few more before and afters just to show him that's not freak. Now, that was my hands. My son wanted me to do a half my face. I said, Mom won't go out with me. if I do that. So I'll spray my right hand, but I won't spray my left hand. I did that for 12 weeks, and that's the result. This lady's 84, and that was in 4 weeks. And we asked her, how many times a day did you spray? She said, well, I had bottles all over the house. Whenever I passed one, I sprayed. I have swish in different rooms. When I'd see a swish bottle, I would swish. And she said it took four weeks. Well, that blew me away. I had never seen anything like that. Next. Okay, that's an 84-year-old in Greece. Same thing. She said, I had old lady legs. Now I have young lady legs. I couldn't believe that. This lady's much younger, but she's an esthetician. She owns her own skincare salon in Florida. She said, Steve, my face is brighter. Look how much tighter, smoother. Where did my pores go? Look how it opened up my eyes. I've been in this business my whole adult life and nothing else does this. I said, yeah, we're starting to get the hint. Next. Okay, this lady's 60 years old. That was after 1 month, but look what happened after 6 months. Tighter, brighter, smoother, younger looking. Okay, look at her neck, look at her eyes. I mean, it's pretty crazy. She came into our office at 60. We all thought she was maybe 42, 45. We would have never guessed 60. Next. Okay, this man's 67. That was 6 weeks. On the left hand, he looks like he could be on a wanted poster. And on the right side, he looks like he could be an advertisement for an older person skincare line. I mean, look at that. 6 weeks. Okay, go on. We'll go on to just a couple more and we're done. Go on. Next. She's very young, but look how it evened out her skin tone and diminished the appearance of her pores. Next. In 10 days. She's 80 years old. That was 3 weeks. Amazing. Next. She's 65, but was a smoker, which does a lot of damage to the skin. That was 8 weeks. Next. Okay, that was 6 days. That's really amazing. Next. Okay, she's in Africa. Her daughter's a doctor, gave her the product. That was in 4 weeks. It changed the management, improved the management of the melanin in her skin. And that's why the blackness in the upper hemisphere disappeared. She couldn't believe it. Her doctor there's skin damage in Australia. Next. Okay, this guy, we got 2 more. This guy is 94 years old, and I love what he said. He said, I love the new look, which is pretty funny. And he says, but what I like most is I feel like the guy on the right, not the guy on the left. And there we go. We met her in Hungary, 87 years old. And 7 weeks. I said, what did you do? She said, I did what you said. I sprayed 5 times a day. And in 7 weeks, I saw the same thing that your first picture showed. And boy, did she. Okay, that's about it. We hope whoever invited you to this call, you'll get with them. We can't reach the world, but you can. And somebody, Michael, you posted explorers in Antarctica now using our product, Russian explorers. Do you know who got it to them?
Yes, I met with Sergey, who is a ambassador for Antarctica in New Zealand on my trip, and he took it down and delivered it directly to him.
Wow. So now we're on all 7 continents at last. Okay, thanks for that. If you would text me that name so I can tell the story right. Thank you all. We'll be here on the 3rd Thursday of March. We're 3rd Thursday at this time, and we also do a morning call for the Northern Hemisphere. And it's so good to see all my friends in New Zealand and what's your name? Australia. I'm kidding. I know. These are people that I'm in love with. I wish I could get down more often. My travel is being metered. My wife meters how much I can travel, and I have to have somebody. So Sergio and I, you can see him there. We're going to Mexico next week. And then a few weeks later, Ryan and I go to Mexico. Ryan's going to Japan, Indonesia, and Thailand. Aaron, Taiwan. And Aaron, it will be in Poland in a couple of days. He just left today. So we're getting out to meet as many people as we can. And thank you for joining us. And those of you that know my heart, know my love. And just remember, God loves you more than your mother does or did. And she loved you an awful lot. So have a good rest of your month.
Thank you, Steve. Now, for everyone who is brand new today, if you're on social media, Facebook, do yourself a favor, go and search Neumi Knew You. That's the official Facebook group. You'll see hundreds of bits of feedback. And in there is, I just wanted to show you exactly what Steve was asking about. That is the situation right there. And I cannot pronounce his name, but it's Fidovor Kodovskovskyov. I did not pronounce that right. But that is where the product is in the Antarctic, guys. So good